Behind me here, I have a 5-litre supercharged Jaguar F-Type SVR, and the first thing I'm going to do is take the engine and gearbox out because it's knackered. In the last video, I bought this Jaguar F-Type SVR from a salvage auction because it was category N damaged, but it just been through a flood and the engine was not working. We tried to get it working in this video, but it wouldn't even turn over. No, nothing at all. Damn it! Now, it didn't seem quite right to me because there seemed like there was just no power to the engine, and I actually found the fuse had blown to the starter motor. So we bridged the connection straight to the battery, and that actually gave us power to the starter motor, and it did actually turn over. And it sounded alright, although a lot of floodwater came out. But once I turned it over 2 or 3 times with no spark plugs in, I thought I might as well give it a go. I put the spark plugs back in, and I tried to start it again. Oh, I'm actually really nervous. No, it don't sound good. So go and click in the top right corner if you want to watch the rest of that video, but for now, we've got an engine and gearbox to take out. And there we have it. Look, I've lowered the subframe sort of 6 or so inches now, which has revealed one of the exhaust bolts, which I wouldn't have been able to get access to otherwise. So now, perfect access. I'm just going to heat it up and try and remove that without breaking it. One. Now, although lowering the engine has actually worked a treat, I was able to get the exhaust bolts off, able to get the exhaust off. However, it's kind of sleeved and then ridged as well, and it was really difficult to get that off. So I don't know how I'm going to get that one off because it's a bit tighter space, but I've now got access to the prop bolts, lovely as well, which was the point of lowering it. I've managed to undo 4 of them, but the ones at the top were a right pain in the ass to get to. And because this car hit, oh, there's my torch. I've been looking for that for about a day and a half. I always put stuff in stupid places. But no matter what I do, every time you turn the ignition off on this, it puts the handbrake on. And obviously I need to be able to spin the prop to be able to get to the bolts at the top. So I've had to reconnect the battery. I've had to reconnect the ECU, plug all the fuel lines back in so I could turn the ignition on to take the handbrake off, which has done it, but the car won't go into neutral unless you're driving. And my emergency release is this cable here, which I've already undone, and that bolts to the gearbox here. So I had to pull this back, hold it so it was in neutral, and then spin the prop, which I've done now, and it's given me access to my last bolt, which is just around there. So hopefully I can undo that, pull the prop off, and then we just got to remove that other exhaust. And then I think we are clear. So with those last bolts removed, it was then just carefully lowering the scissor jack down, also putting the car up a little bit, just making sure everything's clear, all connections are removed. We don't want to be breaking any coolant pipes or electrical wires, but we're all clear, all good. And there we go, engine, gearbox, subframe, your lot, it's all out. And if I'm honest, it was actually quite easy to get out. Now also I just want to mention, in the last video I had a lot of comments saying, why didn't I drain the engine oil before I tried turning over the car? Now I knew this car hadn't been in like a big flood, because if it had been in a big flood, it wouldn't be a category N write-off, it would be a category B write-off, and it wouldn't be in this workshop right now. So think of it like the car inhaled water, but it didn't get into the bloodstream. Kind of use that as an analogy. If the water had gone over the top of the engine and sat there for a while, long enough for water to get in the engine sump, then this car would be a definite category B write-off. So I knew for a fact that there would be no water in this sump, which is why I didn't drain it first. Now, the other good thing is the previous owner has actually got in contact with me, so I know now exactly what happened to the car, and it is exactly as I really thought. So it happened on a bridge last year in Storm Babette, I think it was, or the one after that, Storm Kieran possibly. The previous owner was just going home one night, really dark roads, the wind was starting, the rivers were flooding, and they went over an unlit bridge at night, and by the time they realised that the water was a lot higher going over the bridge than they thought, it was just too late, and the car just breathed in water. It all happens really quickly, so I don't think there's really much you can do about it, especially at night if you can't see. So that is what happened, just went across a bridge and it just ingested a load of water, but they turned it off pretty quickly, which is why the engine probably still runs and didn't hydrolock really badly. I think it was on idle that it probably happened. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. So the water didn't get inside the car at all, so it's just really handy to know the car's passed, and we know now that it was just as I suspected. It was just a minor flood of the engine. Now, obviously, because it was the first time, it took me way longer than it would do if I'd done it 2 or 3 times. But I think it was overall easier to get out than an Audi equivalent. Big thing that helped was the gearbox on this. Now on the more modern cars, putting it into drive is done electronically. It isn't a physical like gear selector now, so that makes a big difference because usually they're on top of the gearbox and they're a pain to get hold of. But on this, I didn't have to disconnect anything gearbox related. It's all done through the main loom at the top there. So now it all come out really well. So now we've just got the massive pain in the ass, big old ZF8 transmission, is that? I'm not too sure, but it needs to come off whatever it is, because obviously now we need to get the engine out of there.
Removing the gearbox, and this was actually surprisingly easy. Just need to remove all the electrical connections which go over the back of the gearbox. We need to remove the little prop shaft that goes from the transfer box at the front to the gearbox. It's like a mini prop shaft. We need to remove the gearbox cooling oil pipes, and then just remove all the bolts and the bell housing and just prise it off.
There we go. Note to self, you need to drain Jaguar gearboxes before emptying them. Don't have to do that on Audi. Right, I finally got the engine clear of everything, and I'm now just going to gently pull it back and hope it nicely just comes over the top of the rad. Pat. Slowly does it. Now, I've made a few mistakes that I've made because I've done this for the first time, and it's just basically tricks and tips. Now, this drive shaft here is about 9 miles long, so I had to remove the hub to be able to get it out of the engine. So forward, if I had to do this again, I would just take the whole arm and drive shaft off before I took the subframe off the car. And also the suspension unit had to come off as well because it wouldn't let me take it out. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do the same with this side to get it back in, although this drive shaft is a lot shorter, so that was okay. So that was mistake numero uno. The second one is the torque converter wasn't supposed to stay on the engine, it was supposed to stay in the gearbox, but if you can see here, the torque converter, I'm pretty sure is actually bolted to this flywheel here, and if you see, the bolts are on the back side. Now, I did have a quick check. I couldn't see any inspection holes, and normally you'd get an inspection hole here.
Now I thought I'd just chime in here, and the reason I lost all my gearbox oil is because I didn't unbolt the torque converter from the flywheel, so the torque converter stayed with the engine, pulled off the gearbox, and that's where it lost all its gearbox oil from. Now you should just remove the bolts from the flywheel to the torque converter, so the torque converter then stays with the gearbox and I wouldn't have lost all my fluid. Luckily I'm changing it anyway, but I didn't need to make the mess.
Okay, it wasn't the starter motor, but I have just found it. There it is, look. There was a rubber grommet there. I mean, don't know how you're supposed to know that that's there unless you know it's there, but found it now so we can remove the bolts. Yeah, just piss all over the floor. No worries, fella. That's fine. Cheers. Right, so I'm trying to keep this place as tidy as possible, which is proving quite difficult because I keep having spillages everywhere. But I thought I'd just take the lid off both of the superchargers and look what we have here. So this is the engine we've just taken out, and this is the river flood that the engine has absorbed. And you can see in there, look, this is just sat in the supercharger. So we got our air coming in here, goes onto there, and it gets sucked in by the supercharger and then forced under pressure down into each of the inlets. And yeah, it's looking pretty muddy, as you can see, and disgusting. Look, so the back of the valves, although they're now dry because obviously we turned it over, got all the water out. Yeah, it's not great, but I thought I'd just take off the new one because I don't know anything about the engine. I don't know how long it's sat for, so it could be absolutely filthy. And yeah, there's a little bit of like dirt like you would expect from a 30,000 mile engine, so I have just cleaned it up, but yeah, nothing like that. We can see that everything is nice and clean on this one. I have just put all some rags down there, but like all the impeller for the or the turbine for the supercharger, look, is all lovely jubbly, and as we can see, look, all nice and clean in there too, so that's all good. Intake system on the new engine, good. The old one, look, yeah, pretty sludgy. Look, I don't know if you can see, there we go, look, pretty sludgy. So yeah, so I'm now happy all the intake system, all the engine is all good. So I'm now just going to put the supercharger back, the lid back on. I'm going to swap over any bits that I need to, like aircon pipes. There's a couple there I need to take from the old engine, put it on the new engine. I think that's pretty much it, if I'm honest. There's a few coolant pipes that are different, like I can take these off because they're actually inside the radiator on that one, so I can remove those. And then we're going to pick the engine back up, dump it back on here, and I've also put my torque converter back into the gearbox. That was definitely the better way of doing it. I clear up this area here. We can stick the gearbox back on the engine, have a little clear up here as well, and we can start reassembling. Now, it's all about just being very careful here, trying to lower the engine into the subframe whilst not trying to make the subframe fall off the scissor jack, because there's nothing holding it on there, and then just getting it all lined up, getting the bolts in, and then getting the gearbox lined up to the flywheel so we can get that on too. So this could go well or very bad. Instead of trying to kill my back, I've taken the engine off the jack, off the engine crane. I've now put it around the gearbox. I'm going to just hopefully lift the gearbox up onto it. The only downside is there's absolutely nothing holding this engine and subframe on this scissor lift apart from balance and gravity, so I hope it's just not going to fall off. So after getting that gearbox on surprisingly easy, it's now just about building the whole thing back up, mini prop back on, gearbox oil pipes back on, all the electrical connections back on as well, and just making sure we do everything in the reverse order, ready to put back in the car and lower the car back onto the subframe. So I think I'm pretty much there for the moment. I've got everything connected that I need to. Coolant system kind of connected, but we have no coolant. I have just checked, there's definitely no oil in the sump, and there's not.
So I've just got some cheap 5W30 engine oil from Halfords. We're going to run it up. Hopefully it obviously runs properly, cycle it around, and then we'll drop it out and put proper oil and a new oil filter in as well. So I am just going to empty all this in here. Bit of a waste of oil, but I don't know what the state of the engine is previous to this, so right, let's just connect the battery up. Should be good. I've left this offside front completely stripped too, just because I don't need it together to get it running. Right, we're in park. So let's just see if it turns over first. Yep. Yep, new engine turning over. Let's just turn over again, get that oil circulating. Yeah, sounds good. Right. Oh, okay, no, I don't need to do it again. Oh, okay, let's do it again. Can't stop it. Right, so now I've turned the engine over 3 or 4 times. Obviously with no compression, just to get that oil circulating a little bit. Now I'm just going to stick the plugs in and press go, and hopefully it starts up and runs sweet. So let's do that. So I've just put the plugs and the core packs back in, connected everything all together. So now we are good to go for a start with oil in. Hopefully it'll just start straight up and not have a horrible knocking noise. Right, moment of truth. Let's go. Okay, it turns straight off. Why did it do that? Why did it turn straight off for? Okay, well I've done something because it turns off. But for that split second it ran, there was no knocks and bangs. So I need to find out why it's turning off. I'm not going to lie, this smoke smells incredible. V-Power, definitely. Or Tesco 99. Now, I have a feeling that it's to do with the intake flap motor, because I actually took this off of the original engine just because it was a little bit, it worked a bit freer. It was cleaner. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take that across with me. And maybe I'm thinking it's because it's not done a basic setting, possibly. It's just not letting any oxygen through at all, which is why it's stalling straight away. So let's have a quick look. Now, I just cleared all the codes, so there's now no codes. There was loads of codes, but nothing out of the normal for obviously disconnecting the ECU and everything. So if you click on like enter control unit, there's no options to do any like basic settings on this. See, that's all I've got. Like, I've just got an actuation test, which isn't a basic setting. It's just actuate the independent modules and sensors and stuff. So I've cleared everything down. So maybe it was just that was, I don't know, holding it back. So I don't know, just I'm gonna have another go. I can't think of anything else. Aha! There we go. Sounds a lot better than the other one. Oh, she sounds sweet. Although, I don't know if I've not connected the exhaust, but right, that's enough. That's enough. I don't want to run it for too long because I lost some gearbox oil, which I need to replenish, and obviously it needs coolant and all that stuff. So no, really happy with that. Engine runs, happy, sounds sweet. And now, yeah, we've got to put the whole thing back together, but I don't know if it's going to be in this video because I've just noticed something that's not going to enable me to finish this project. Now, I've just seen something rather interesting. I just saw it on the computer. It said something about a seatbelt. So I just thought, oh, yeah, seatbelts. So I'll just check the seatbelts. They're gone. I have no seatbelts. I'm not really sure what's happened here. But yeah, just had a look, and my seatbelts are completely missing, and looking down here, they've been cut off. There we go. There's my seatbelt, look. Like, what the hell's gone on? Why are my seatbelts been cut? I've just pulled this trim back. I'm just going to see if I can lift it up a bit more. No, don't want to break it. There it is, in there. So why someone cut my seatbelt? What the hell? This has completely ruined the video. Well, and there we go, look. One cut seatbelt. Now, I don't think it's blown. Normally, well, yeah, it's not blown. You'd hear the components inside that rattling away if the seatbelt had gone. So I don't know why someone's decided to cut the seatbelt. So I'm now going to have to send both of these to Airbag Service and get new seatbelts fitted, which is obviously going to take like 3 or 4 days, which is really frustrating because that means I now can't finish and road test the SVR, which is, yeah, a little bit annoying to be honest. So I'm going to end this video here now because I can't now finish the car for a couple of days. So I'm going to end it on a positive note, and that is, this is a really nice smell. And we have the 5-litre supercharged engine all running, and it sounds quite nice as well. So obviously in the next video, we're going to finish it all off, put it all back together. Going to do a full service on the gearbox, full service on the engine again. And yes, fit the seatbelts, do some other bits, get some other bits sorted, and go for that road test. So don't forget, guys, the SVR is live on Compete for Cars. You can win the car for just £1.99. The live draw is in a few weeks. So please go grab your ticket. Someone is going to win this epic car. Now you know the engine runs fine. It's just a foregone conclusion now that the car will be up and running within a week or so. So as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys.